Welcome to the Somerville Line. My name is Alvin Benjamin Carter III, and I'm your host. On this episode of the Somerville Line, we are hosting a panel discussion regarding community, police, and race. This show is moderated by George Halfkenny. Thanks for watching, and now let's check out the panel discussion.
Good evening and welcome to this public panel and discussion on police, community, and race. My name is George Halfkenny and I will be the moderator this evening. We're going to start by introducing the panel. I'm going to go from my right. Chief Fallon is a graduate of Somerville High School. He holds an associate degree from the Community College of the Air Force, a bachelor's degree in exercise physiology from UMass Boston, and a master's degree in criminal justice from Western New England College. Chief Fallon is retired from the United States Air Force after spending 4 years active duty Air Force and 18 years in the United States Air Force Reserve. Chief Fallon is a Desert Shield, Desert Storm veteran, having spent 12 months in the area of operation. The Chief is a graduate from the prestigious FBI National Academy and a 17-year member of the Somerville Police Department. Sergio is a 23-year-old assistant program coordinator at the Center of Teen Empowerment, Somerville, who has been a resident of East Somerville for over 15 years and in recent years participated in one of the boards to help choose the police chief in Somerville. To my left is Sonja Darai. Sonja is a sustainable development specialist on marginalized and vulnerable populations. She focuses on issues of restorative justice, gender and intimate partner violence, public health, community engagement, and civic leadership on women, human rights, multicultural affairs, and the LGBTQ community. Sonja Darai holds an MA in Intercultural Management and Sustainable Development from the School of International Training and a BA in International Relations and Soviet Russian Area Studies from the University of Minnesota. She has experience at the international, federal, state, and municipal levels of nonprofit NGOs, elected officials, and government. And last but certainly not least, Henry Parker was born in Somerville. His family was the third black family to move to Somerville. As a youth, he attended Western Junior High and is a graduate of Somerville High School. After high school, he attended St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina, where he majored in sociology. He presently works in the Cambridge Community School program. His hobbies are travel, music, martial arts, Africana studies, and current events. He is also on the SCATV Board of Directors and produces Henry Parker Presents. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. Again, my name is George Halfkenny and I will be the moderator. My background extends a long time in this community. I was raised in Boston and in Cambridge. Have experienced every kind of service that is available from the state and local agencies. I've survived and lived through a lot, including teen parenthood, juvenile incarceration, adult incarceration, addiction, homelessness. I've experienced a lot, and in recent years, I've taken that experience and I got trained as a restorative justice circle keeper, and I'm a social justice advocate now who focuses on using my life experience to help. I specialize in the areas of mass incarceration, reentry, and the school to prison pipeline. So, we're gonna have a conversation, just a discussion. Three big issues we're talking about: race, community, and policing. All very important. Everyone's aware of sort of the national context of what's happening with race and with police and how communities are handling that. This conversation can be sort of like, what does that look like in Somerville? And the first question is, based on the national context, how do you see Somerville in relation? We can start with the chief.
Sure, yeah. I think race relations in any community, and Somerville's not immune to it, has to be always improving, right? You have to start from whatever level you're at, and I think race relations in Somerville are at a good level, but I think you always have to be working to improve them. I mean, the police are the community. The police, there's no problems, there's no issues in this community that the police are gonna solve by themselves. You know, I came up to the ranks of the Somerville Police Department, and I saw that firsthand. And I grew up in Somerville and seen some of the issues that can take place. But I'm a firm believer, and one of the reasons I wanted to become the police chief in Somerville is because I really believe that there's no issue that we can't solve if we work together. And that's the entire community and the police department. So race relationship in Somerville, I think they're good. I think dialogues like this are vitally important, and that's what keeps them strong. But I think it's something we should be constantly improving upon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sergio?
I always think about this myself, living in Somerville and seeing the diversity that's in Somerville. I have Haitian, Jamaican, friends that range from all different parts of the world. So for me, race relations is kind of like a gray area for me because I have friends coming from everywhere. So education, I feel like educating ourselves on like what's going on around the country and around the world as far as race relation goes, and trying to educate ourselves and everybody else around us, and try to keep these relationships positive, try to promote more positive interactions with the police, and try to keep it from being more like militant and being more community-based and trying to help and nurture the kids, and vice versa, try to help the police in what they're doing, because there is still going to be crime, whether the race relations are poor or good. So I believe that's something along the lines of what Chief Fallon said, as far as just like keeping up with these dialogues and doing panel discussions like that, and just having organic conversations on race and policing and community would just help it reach a more positive state.
Thank you. Sonja?
Well, I think the chief and Sergio really have good perspectives, and I would definitely agree that community and conversation and organic conversation is really important from the perspective of I do, investigations around human rights violations and doing conflict engagement. It's about engaging in the conflict and not being afraid that this is difficult, this is hard. I wouldn't be afraid of that. I think we should walk towards that and have a conversation around it, even if it's going to have emotional context. It's not so scary that we can't all come together as a community and talk about it and be a part of the dialogue.
Thank you. It's uncomfortable. It's difficult to talk about people. Henry, you've been around for a while to see a lot of this, especially here.
Okay, quick historical caveat.
Okay.
The Somerville black community has always been small. Somerville was always 99 and 9/10% Irish and Italian. The Somerville black community lived on Cameron Avenue, Elmwood, Harrison Ave. When I graduated from high school, out of 500 kids, 3 blacks. When my mother graduated, 1. When my uncle graduated, 1. When my cousin graduated, 1. So, put it this way, we were for the most part, invisible. Now, as for that, we got along, but like I said, invisible. There, some instances where there was some problems, but we'll get to that later.
Okay, so let me just ask you a little bit further, like how do you think that was when you were in school? What do you feel like is sort of the climate right now here in the city?
Okay, it's different as night and day. You gotta stop and think. Now it's much more diverse. Once the red line came in, the script got flipped. You had your Haitians start to move in. You had your Brazilians and of the Spanish-speaking folk. So, like I said, everything changed.
All right. So what are, considering that diversity that's going on, that brings us to the next question, which is what are some city agencies doing to ensure enough training and preparedness happens on the police force? And I guess that would sort of extend sort of the human services as well. So it's not just, I think, the whole, what is the city doing? What does that look like? I'll start with you.
There's a lot of cooperation and collaboration with the police department and the fire department and other first responders, which is to be familiarizing all of the especially the frontline staff, but going through the ranks. I know that the fire department and the police department are getting all of their ranks trained in a lot of the issues around culture, mental illness, and domestic violence and sexual assault, and just like religion and culture. They're getting the basics and then growing into it. So I think that we are seeing a lot more training getting in there. I think we'll, I'll throw it to the chief right away, and I know that there's a priority to get more training.
Chief?
I think you can actually look beyond the training. And as Sergio stated, I mean, here's a young man in our community, 23 years old. He had serious and vital input into the picking of the chief of police in Somerville. I mean, that's how serious we take it. And I think teen empowerment, the group that he works for in general, was a big part of picking the chief of police in the city where they work and residing and they live in. And I think, you know, that goes beyond the training. I mean, training is one thing, but having actual live, vital input into the process and getting that buy-in is really, it's huge. And I always, you know, Sergio, I remember seeing him at the senior picnic and seeing him at the youth dialogues in the city. And, you know, in my mind, I always say, I give you a ton of credit for being involved, because it's not always easy to be involved. But what Teen Empowerment does is they reach out to at-risk youth in the community, right? And try to bring them in and help them with employment skills and help them with, you know, all different issues in their lives, whether it be drug abuse. And sometimes they are working with kids in our community that are at risk. And that's the tough work being done, to give them buy-in into the police department. And for an example, is we held a youth dialogue the other day. We held it at the police department. And I think that's so important. So I went downstairs last night to check on it. And as soon as I get down to the first floor, I could hear all the dialogue, right? And that's important, you know? So you can train, and we do train, but it's really, you know, our partnerships with a group like Teen Empowerment that make the Somerville Police Department a better police department.
Thank you. So how does that translate, Sergio? Like, you're working with Teen Empowerment, but you're also a young man living in the city who, like, how does it, all the training or business that the government is doing, how does that translate for you?
I feel like it gives the kids a little more comfort. At the same time, I can understand there can still be that tension between police and youth, and just from recent events that they see on social media and just the news itself, as far as like Ferguson goes and things like Eric Garner in New York. I feel like they're going to build their own perceptions on what's going on with police. So, like Chief Fallon said, the dialogues that we have with the police can help immensely, just simply for the fact that when a kid is doing something wrong, and an officer that they've had that dialogue with comes across them, they could have that conversation instead of locking them up and putting them incarcerating them. They can give them an option to just, you know, talk to them as a person and give them that advice to keep them out of prison, instead of, you know, handling him like he never knew him before, like a stranger, and just like basically not criminalizing them and putting him in that space and just seeing him as a person, as a youth growing up, you know, dealing with all the things that youth deal with and the issues of just becoming a young man or woman. things of that nature, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Henry, I'll have the same question for you. Like, how do you feel like sort of the efforts that city government, including the police, are putting in, how does that translate to your experience as a resident?
Okay, as a resident, the black community where it was so small, the relationship with the police was, put it this way, they were seen, known just by their color. So no matter what, let me give you an instance. One of my friends, he did something simple. Bulletin went out, 5'6" black man. Who did I grab? 6'5" black man, not once, but twice. In fact, at one point, the first black policeman in Somerville, he had a hard time. You think Jackie Robinson had a hard time. They sent him up to North Street. He cleaned it up. Some folk didn't like it, so whatever happened, he ended up filing a discrimination suit against him and won. Another case. Another friend of mine, at this time, interracial relationships were frowned upon. They didn't like him having a white girlfriend, so they took him behind the Western Junior High School. He didn't know what to do behind that, so he had no idea what resources were available.
Okay. That's, excuse me. That's bringing me to the next question, and I want the audience to keep this question in mind because it's sort of what are the experiences and interactions that you've had with the police in Somerville? Again, I mean, this is not Ferguson, but at the same time, Ferguson's happening everywhere. Sort of the climate is everywhere. You can look online and see that there is sort of a tough relationship between parts of the population, mainly black and brown people, and the police forces that they are serviced by. And what are sort of your interactions when it comes to things like that, or what have you seen? So I will start with Sergio.
I try to have as little interaction with police as possible, but being a part of teen empowerment has opened my eyes as far as, or try to make me see different perspectives, like where they're coming from, you know, because sometimes I forget that they're human too, you know, that they have a job, there's certain laws that they have to abide by and uphold, and there could be certain like bad apples in the whole bunch or basket, but that shouldn't reflect on the behavior of the ones that are actually doing their job, who are trying to uphold the law and actually seek justice and uphold and keep the justice, keep the peace. So it varies, man. It varies. You know, I had a run-in with a few officers not too long ago, but that was dealt with accordingly. The officer that was basically that stepped out of line, he was fired, let go of. So for me, I saw more of the justice side. Now, for other situations, I can't speak on the other people and what's going on because I'm not there. But from what I see on the news, there's not a lot of justice being served. So I think people feel angry. They get angry. You know, there's a lot of distrust between some groups of people, as far as people of color and the police. They feel like they've been let down. Like we're supposed to be free. You know, why are we still dealing with our kids getting shot, you know, for no reason? You know, so there has to be there should be dialogues, there should be solutions being put up. I know there's problems everywhere, but what are the solutions? What can we agree, what can we come to as an agreement for all of us to be just living in peace? Stop shooting me. Leave me alone. You know, I just want to be able to live and provide for my family. So it varies. It varies.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Sonja, I know you're also a Somerville resident. What have been your experiences as far as your interactions? How do you see the Somerville Police Department?
I think my interactions, I have two teenagers, so I'm encouraging them to connect in, and they grew up with officers coming and play some basketball. So I thought that helped a little bit with them feeling like, oh, these are guys. These are just people that I can connect with. My son pretty much has hero worship for anybody. So he probably, worships the officer that came to play basketball, worships the mayor, worships, all. He's got worship complex. He really looks to people. So that really worked for him to have just that simple of an interaction. As a resident, I have distinguished between Somerville Police Department and the state troopers. I have a better positive relationship with the Somerville Police Department just because I interact with them, and the few experiences I've had that are maybe negative have been more of a state trooper, but the Somerville Police Department I feel more comfortable with. One thing I wanted to mention is just because when Sergio was talking, is the complaint process that you went through. I think any of the complaint processes that we have an opportunity to connect in with the police department and any of the official bodies that we work with, every complaint that we get in does, I think, impact policy and makes opportunities and changes. Even if there isn't a staff person let go, there's conversations that happen and policies, and they start to work. And so I want to encourage people to bring up concerns because there is a good complaint process with the police department, the fire department. They have good complaint processes, and getting those stories into the system helps them to improve. And so I think that's how we ended up with a just outcome. I don't want to say a good outcome because we never know what the outcome will be, but that outcome came in. So,
Thank you.
Quick question.
Yes.
How many, this is directed toward the chief, how many black and Spanish-speaking policemen do you have on the force?
As far as black and Spanish, I'm not 100% sure of the numbers, but I know that half of the Somerville Police Department are bilingual. And we strive for that in our hiring process. Because if you go back, for me and in Somerville, what we look at is, we'll go policing, right? Policing gets their authority from the community, right? To order police the society, you have to work in conjunction with the community to get that authority. We want the Somerville Police Department to be a good makeup of Somerville residents. That's why we have a 1-year residency requirement. In order to become a police officer in Somerville, you have to live in the community for 1 year prior to taking the exam, and that gives Somerville residents a better opportunity of joining the force. After you get on the Somerville Police Force, you have to reside in Somerville for 7 years. So we want our police department to be made up of the community.
I want to just sort of dig a little more into that question. I know that sort of Ferguson is the benchmark, if you will, for sort of this conversation, and I know that their police force is really lopsided as far as the number of African American officers.
Sure.
And you alluded to the importance of sort of having that demographic reflect the community it serves. Do you have any kind of numbers as far as the amount of African American officers that are on the Somerville Police Department?
If I was saying a percentage, I'd be honest with you, I'd be guessing.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. But what we do is, a week or so ago, I went to the Haitian church on Medford Street in Somerville and spoke. And you were there, about building that relationship, and having members of the Haitian community look to seek to join the police force as they grow up, and have those connections, because it's so important. But as far as percentage-wise, I'd be guessing 10% maybe, but it's a guesstimate. But we always
do you feel
strive.
like it's enough?
I don't think it's ever enough. I don't think it can never reflect the community enough. I think everybody that wants the opportunity to be a police officer, if you join the force with public service in mind, I think everybody should have the opportunity to serve the public. But policing should be going in the direction that's exactly what policing is public service. You put on the uniform, you go to police academy, you're a servant, you're a public servant. You should be there to assist your fellow man in the community. in whatever their endeavor is. I mean, I think Sergio brought up a good point about arrest. I mean, we're teaching our officers arrest should really be the last option. Should be one of the last options. It's a tool in your tool belt, but it should be one of the last options. You know, if you come across, Somerville was one of the first. I'm always proud to say it. One of the first communities in Massachusetts to start a jail diversion program for juveniles, and that came from the district attorney's office. It is, look, if a young man or woman in our community makes a mistake, 15 or 16 years old, arrest should be the last option, right? Let's see, why aren't you going to school? What's going on at home? Is there substance abuse issues? Let's look at those as a community and address those and help that person move forward and move beyond that incident. I always think, sometimes an arrest, especially to a juvenile, is locking that person to a mistake. And I always say, I grew up in Somerville, I always think, by the grace of God go I, because I made mistakes in my life. And I think everybody has. And police, and especially police management, you have to realize that, and the rest should be the last option and really be, let's take a community effort to help people move forward, the policing. And I think sometimes, not to go on too long, but when you look at juvenile crime and stuff, and you got a 12-year-old, well, why isn't he going to school? What are the, let's not look at the crime that person committed, but what are the factors that's keeping a 12-year-old kid out of school? Or having a 12-year-old kid use alcohol or get involved in narcotics? I think that's what we should be looking at as a community. And how do we take a community approach to helping him out?
Let me just interject and ask, because I remember when I was a kid, I was placed in a jail cell when I was 8 years old, and it was part of a Chin's petition through the court.
Yep.
And my vision of the police and authority changed in that instant. And I heard Sergio talk about how he would rather not have any involvement with the police at all if he had a choice. I'm guessing that Sonja's children might have a different experience, or that a white family's children might have a different experience. Sure. I'm sure Henry can speak to this, but what's the public's responsibility in changing that and building it so that the police aren't seen as somebody who might shoot us or might otherwise not engage?
I give you credit for this dialogue that you're holding tonight. An open conversation, right? Publicly telecast that, hey, we're here together to help solve community problems. And it's not the police that's going to solve the issues, or the black community that's going to solve it, or the transgender community. It's everybody together. And I honestly believe that. I honestly believe that dialogues like this is what pushes that agenda forward, to take a community approach, holistic approach to solving society problems. I mean, I said at the beginning, and it's kind of been my mantra a little bit, but the police aren't going to solve community problems, issues, and they're not really there to do that. But working together, social service providers, schools, police, city government, youth organizations like teen empowerment, nonprofits, I don't think there's an issue we can't tackle. But it has to be a community effort.
Thank you. Same questions. What do you think as far as the community's effort?
I think we need to have a high expectation of people getting involved and setting aside the percentage of their personal pursuits and put more towards engaging in attending the community activities and going to the things that sound a lot more boring, because the things that are really boring are the scheduling and the planning of where we're going, and I think the city does a pretty good effort in trying to make them less boring. Somerville by Design is something like designing the future, and we want to get as many people into it. But you have like the Human Rights Commission. Getting involved in the Human Rights Commission, you don't get to choose the topic in which is a human rights complaint. you have to just be available and listen to what is happening. And so I think that it makes it kind of challenging, because if you got engaged in the commission because you're really, really invested in like just one specific topic. Like, I only care about people from South Asia or something. And so if a topic comes up and it's about the trans community, well, I may not be interested. So I'm not going to take that one. It's like, well, but that's what the story is today. And it wasn't necessarily what you were interested in. It's what's available today. And that's what we need our community to get into, is what is the topic right now, not what I'm interested in. Does that make sense? It's like we have to be like, right? Like, I mean, just talking about the issues that are happening in our community and being engaged in our neighbors right now.
Well, what is happening, not necessarily in our community or here, but in the context of this conversation, is that kids are dying. Kids are dying oftentimes after they have an interaction with the police. People are getting abused, people are getting beaten, and there's an inherent distrust now where the people that are charged with protecting and serving us, we won't go to because of that. That's been my experience. And when you have, and I applaud the chief and sort of the city's efforts, especially with the juvenile diversion program. I think that there are remedies like that, but how can people become more engaged? Like, it's to the point where we'll meet people wherever they are, because something has to happen. So what can we do to be more engaged, and what are we doing now?
Okay, I would say, for the most part, coming up, you used to see a lot of policemen on foot, so that way they could engage the community. They go into the schools, etc. So there would be that, one-on-one dialogue, etc. But now there seems to be a disconnect. I see more parking control officers than I see policemen out on foot. So, maybe that's a financial thing, but that's beside the point. That's one thing. Police athletic league, if I'm playing ball against the chief, I get to know him in a whole different manner. Whereas with, say, Ferguson, you got a, homicide mentality, where they don't, where the police officers probably are totally disconnected from the community. It's all out war. Justifiable homicide.
One question I'm just thinking about is, growing up, I'm from Minnesota, and we didn't see as many neighbors walking around as we do in Somerville, which is amazing. And I didn't know that many of the houses. I did know the people on my street, but we didn't have that many neighbors who really could, say to me, what are you doing? Like, did you get your homework done? Go ahead home and get your homework done, even though they were just a neighbor. Whereas when I lived overseas, that was more common. Neighbors would do that all the time. They'd be like, they would see some teenagers hanging out in a clump. They would say, did you get your homework done? Get home. If anybody was dragging their feet, they're like, pick up your feet. Your mom bought those shoes. And there was more neighborhood engagement. And I just bring it in about what we were talking about, like community engagement and some healthy expectation that the kids are part of everybody's family, and that we have. I don't think of that kid as a potential thug, but it's my neighbor's kid. I'm wishing them the best. And I'm just thinking we have an attitude towards all of our kids as being a part of our whole community.
That's interesting. There's a song probably to help me out with this. It's a rap lyric, but it's
I can help you.
I'm just saying, because you're younger than I am.
I know the
I'm
most,
not-
George.
Right.
Yeah, it's something like, I didn't know my neighbors. That's why we call it hood instead of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
They just call it hood because there isn't an interaction with the neighbors. And that speaks sort of to community building and the importance of that, which is great for my final question, which what is the vision and plan for Somerville for community building and to continue its handling of these bigger issues of race and the concerns and create a safe community for everyone?
I think, you know, it's different initiatives, but I think the biggest initiative we have going on in the Somerville Police Department right now is we're drafting a plan. We're working with the school department and the fire department. We're going to have 5 police officers, hopefully this year, adopt the 6th grade in Somerville. So in every school that has a 6th grade, a police officer will adopt that 6th grade and follow the 6th grade students all the way through their school career until they graduate high school. Because we're looking for the officers to build the connection with each one of those students so the students have a touchstone to go to. If they have, you know, a situation on their life, they maybe need advice or someone to turn to, that officer will be there as they go through their school career. So that's one of the initiatives we're doing. And, you know, we look as in 2014, we'd have 5 officers in the Somerville School Department. In 2015, we'd have 10, 2016, 15. So we're building that connections in the school. And, you know, for the police department, look, is every interaction with the public the way a police chief would want it to be? Of course not. You know, it just doesn't happen. Police officers are human beings too, but we're working, we're talking to our officers, and, you know, we're teaching them. 5 officers now are going through, actually 40 officers regionally are in Somerville Police, just ended this week for crisis intervention training, where a big part of that is de-escalation skills. We're talking to officers about, you know, de-escalate situations. That should be your mindset to go in. You know, officer safety is important, but try to bring situations down and de-escalate them. And we're continuously working towards that, you know, and we're continuously partnering with groups like Teen Empowerment in the city, the Haitian Coalition in the city, Wayside. I mean, all these partners is what makes Somerville strong and makes the Somerville Police Department strong. So we're getting better. We can always get better. You know, you're always striving to improve, and that's everything, through recruitment, through retention, through training. You know, it's an ongoing process because, you know, crime numbers are down in Somerville right now. You know, I'm proud to say crime's down 21%, but, you know, how do you feel in your community? That's what's important. Do you feel safe in your community? That's what's important to the police department. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Sonja?
We've been developing a restorative justice campaign so that it's engaging the many, many neighbors to consider what they can do to join in conflict resolution, conflict mediation, bringing the parties of a violent interaction or just a conflict, bringing them together in whether it's a circle or just a conversation. So we've been building up the kinds of people who are interested in participating in it, who already practice restorative justice. It's a new way of solving problems. Well, not new way. It's in our community. It's a new strategy. We want to support existing systems such as the mediation program that's at the high school and the Human Rights Commission, and, you know, taking it as a formal complaint. And but we want to be able to be available to the various conflicts that are happening. So we're looking to have training opportunities. We're looking at just promoting what is the vocabulary, what is a circle, what is a talking piece that you use to help empower someone who's speaking. So these are different things that we're working on, and I think it's vital. For me, as someone who has experienced a shooting and wanting to be a part of a circle dialogue or with that person who was, you know, a very specific person in that situation, and I wanted to have a circle with him, and when that didn't work out because he didn't feel safe to be able to have that conversation. So I feel really directed to work on creating spaces so that everyone can have a conversation around it.
Thank you. I'm going to flip the question for you, Henry. So what do you feel like the vision and plan should be for your community moving forward to handle these concerns and to create a safe environment?
Well, I would, first of all, I commend the police chief for what he's doing, trying to keep things, in particular, in de-escalating things, because certain situations, a lot of people can possibly bring things on themselves because they have no discipline, no personal discipline. That's one thing a lot of people overlook, and that begins in the home. That's one thing. Just that, and just make people aware,
Thank you. And the same question, just sort of what do you feel like the city can do?
Well, just like these two gentlemen have said, and of course, I forgot your name, sorry.
Sonja.
That said before, just continuing these dialogues. I know me, myself, us at Teen Empowerment, we're working on just working more with the police department and doing things like sporting events and community walks, which I believe is tremendous because it will give us that open space to just see what's the community actually, and then actually have that conversation with the police and then get to know each other on that basis where, we're not seeing you guys in the car riding around trying to hide from you guys. It's just like we're really walking through the community and talking about the issues we feel like affect us, and in turn can help you guys do your jobs better and understand the climate of the youth and just people in the city, just to continue that and have those open conversations, and at the same time making sure our households are actually educating our youth and how to interact with the police and just people in general, just having common manners, just courtesy and respect, and just looking somebody in the eye when you're speaking to them, and asking questions when you don't know something, respecting your elders. It's little things like that could help, a long way. So.
Well said. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching the Somerville Line. For information regarding our guest and to view the full question and answer portion of this episode, check out www.scatvsomerville.org. As always, stay up to date with the Somerville Line on Facebook. Peace, love, and Somerville.